She risked everything to save him, then learned he was a billionaire. And what happened next shocked everyone. Before we begin, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. And when the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. The night she found him, the rain was falling in violent sheets that made the streetlights look like trembling candles. Wine clawed at the empty bus stop, the kind of night when even stray dogs hid under cars. But she was still there, clutching a soaked grocery bag against her chest, because she could not afford to let anything spoil, not when every dollar mattered. Maya Torres pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders. Though it was pointless, she was already drenched, but habit was habit. She was about to cross the street when she saw him, a figure slumped on the ground between the bus shelter bench and the trash can. A man, shaking, curled in on himself like someone trying to disappear. At first she thought he might be drunk, or dangerous, but then lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating his face for a brief second, and the sight made her breath hitch. His clothes were torn, but not the kind worn by long-term homeless people. His shoes looked expensive, ruined by mud and rain, and his face, pale, gaunt, but with features that suggested he didn't belong on the street. Not originally. Maya hesitated. The city had taught her caution, but the storm was brutal, and he looked half-conscious. She glanced around. No one else was there. No taxis, no pedestrians, only the roar of rain. She muttered to herself, "Don't do it, Maya. Don't bring another person's mess into your life." But she stepped closer anyway. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked softly. For a moment, nothing. Then his eyes fluttered open, unfocused, as if he had forgotten how to see. Dark eyes, haunted, desperate. He whispered, barely audible over the storm, "Please, don't leave me here." Something in his voice hit her like a physical blow. Lonely, broken, like someone who had lost everything in a single breath. Without thinking, she crouched down and touched his shoulder. His skin was cold, dangerously cold. "You can't stay out in this weather," she said. "Come with me. I'll help you." He tensed, confusion flickering across his expression. "Why?" The question was so raw, so honest, that she felt her throat tighten. "Because no one deserves to die on a sidewalk," she whispered. His eyes closed. Relief or surrender? She couldn't tell. Maya slipped his arm over her shoulders. He was heavier than he looked, and she grunted under the weight. But slowly, inch by inch, she managed to pull him to his feet. "Thank you." He breathed. I'm sorry." "For what?" "For being like this." Her heart twisted. She didn't know why, but she kept walking, step after step, dragging the stranger toward the only place she could take him. Her tiny basement apartment, the place she usually tried to hide from the world, because no one needed to see how small her life had become. By the time she reached her building, her arms trembled, her legs shook. The man was half leaning, half collapsing on her, but he was awake, barely. Inside the entrance hallway, the fluorescent light flickered overhead. She unlocked her door with difficulty, pushing it open with her shoulder. The apartment was cramped. Single bed, tiny kitchen, mismatched furniture she had gathered from thrift shops. But it was warm, and right now, that mattered most. She helped him sit on the small sofa, the only decent piece of furniture she owned. His head fell back, eyes closed, breathing shallow. Maya hurried to grab a towel, then knelt beside him, gently drying his face and hair. He didn't flinch, didn't open his eyes, only whispered, "You shouldn't trust strangers, and you shouldn't be freezing to death." She replied. A weak, almost invisible smile touched his lips. She studied him more closely. His jawline, the shape of his hands, the remnants of what were once expensive clothes. Nothing about him matched the life of a man who lived on the streets. But she didn't ask questions. She had learned long ago that some people carried stories too painful to speak. "You need to change into something dry," she said, standing up. "I'll find something." He opened his eyes slightly. "You're very kind." Maya shrugged. "I'm just doing what anyone should do." He looked at her with an expression that pierced her chest. "No," he murmured, "not anyone." She found an old sweatshirt and sweatpants that belonged to her father, the only clothing of his she had kept after he passed. She hesitated, then carried them to the stranger. "You can put these on," she said, placing them beside him. When she turned away to give him privacy, his voice stopped her. "What's your name?" "Maya. Maya Torres." A pause. "Elias," he whispered. "My name is Elias." The name felt heavy, like it held a history he couldn't bear to tell. She nodded, even though her back was still turned. Well, Elias, you're safe now. Another silence, then a quiet, broken confession. I haven't felt safe in a long time. Maya closed her eyes. Something inside her softened in a way she hadn't expected. She didn't know who he truly was, or why he had ended up at a bus stop in the middle of a storm. But she sensed one thing with absolute clarity. Elias was running from something, or someone, and from the look in his eyes, it was something big, something terrifying, something no ordinary man should ever have to face. She had no idea that the stranger she had just brought into her home was a millionaire CEO who had vanished from his world without a trace, and whose disappearance would soon shake the city, and her own life, in ways she could not yet imagine. The rain had softened to a timid drizzle by the time Maya finished heating a pot of water on the stove. The small kitchen filled with faint steam, warming the air, easing the tension she didn't want to admit she felt. Behind her, she heard the soft rustling of fabric as Elias changed into her father's old clothes. She didn't turn around until she heard his voice. Quiet, hesitant. I'm done. Maya faced him, and for a moment, she forgot how to breathe. The oversized sweatshirt hung loosely on his frame, making him look younger, almost vulnerable. His dark hair was still damp, clinging to his forehead, and in the warm light of her apartment, the exhaustion on his face became even more visible, like someone who had been carrying a burden far too heavy for far too long. Yet there was something else beneath the surface, a quiet strength, a presence she couldn't explain, something she had seen only in people who once had everything, and then lost it. She handed him a steaming mug of tea. Careful, it's hot. His hands wrapped around it slowly, as if he was not used to warmth. Thank you, he murmured, lifting the cup to his lips. When he tasted it, he froze. His brows drew together, surprised. This is good. Maya shrugged lightly. It's just cheap tea from the corner store. No, he whispered, shaking his head. It's warm. I haven't felt that in days. Something inside her chest tightened again. She tried to hide it by sitting down across from him, hands folded together nervously. Do you have somewhere to go? She asked gently. Elias stared into his cup, the muscles in his jaw tightening. A long pause stretched between them. Then, quietly, no. It wasn't the word itself that struck her. It was the tone, a mix of shame, resignation, and something else, something darker, like fear. Maya leaned forward slightly. You don't have to tell me anything. But if someone hurt you, or if you're in trouble, he cut her off. I can't go back. His voice trembled, barely noticeable, but enough to make her go still. I can't go back to my old life, he repeated. Maya swallowed. Old life. The phrase echoed in her mind like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. What happened? She whispered. Elias lifted his eyes slowly, and for the first time, she saw something haunting them, a kind of grief that didn't come from poverty, but from betrayal. I trusted the wrong people. His voice cracked, and it cost me everything. Maya didn't ask more. The pain in his expression was enough to silence her curiosity. Instead, she spoke softly. You can stay here tonight. I don't have much space, but the sofa is comfortable enough. Elias looked at her like she had just offered him the world. I don't want to be a burden, he said. You're not. He tried to protest, but his voice wavered. He was exhausted, too exhausted to argue. Maya stood up, walking toward the small linen closet. I'll get you a blanket, she said. But when she returned, she found Elias sitting forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands, his whole posture trembling, as if the moment he finally stopped running, everything he had been holding inside came crashing down on him. She set the blanket aside and knelt in front of him. Elias, he inhaled shakily. I had everything, he whispered, everything people dream about, and I thought it made me untouchable. Maya didn't speak, didn't move, and then one day, it all disappeared. Tears gathered at the edge of his eyes. Not dramatic tears, not loud, just quiet, helpless grief. I'm sorry, Maya said softly, not knowing what else to offer. He shook his head. Don't be. Another breath, unsteady, broken. I don't know who I am anymore. Without the life I had. Maya took the blanket, unfolded it, and draped it gently around his shoulders. Elias froze, as if he hadn't been touched with kindness in a long time. You don't have to be anyone right now, she whispered. You're safe. Just rest. His eyes lifted to hers, glistening, vulnerable, grateful in a way that made her heart ache. You're too good, he murmured. No one does this. No one takes in a stranger. Maya smiled subtly. I wasn't always like this. She paused, then added, Life breaks everyone a little. Elias let out a slow, trembling exhale. I wish I had met someone like you earlier, he whispered. His voice was soft, sincere, and something in it made her chest tighten in a way she hadn't expected. Get some sleep, she said gently. Standing up, Elias nodded, leaning back against the sofa. His eyes closed almost immediately. Maya watched him for a moment. A stranger she should have feared, but somehow didn't. A stranger who looked like he carried 1,000 secrets. Then, quietly, she whispered into the dim apartment. Who are you really, Elias? She turned off the kitchen light and slipped into her bedroom. But she didn't sleep. Not for a long time. Because somewhere deep inside, she felt it. That taking him in had changed something. That her life had just shifted in a direction she couldn't see yet. And that the man sleeping in her living room was not who he claimed to be. Not even close. Morning came slowly, creeping through the thin blinds like a shy visitor hesitant to cross the threshold. A pale stripe of sunlight stretched across the floor, reaching the edge of the sofa where Elias lay asleep. Maya woke to the soft creak of pipes in the walls and the faint scent of damp clothes drying. For a moment, she forgot the events of the previous night, forgot the storm, the stranger, the trembling voice that had asked her not to leave him. Then she stepped into the small living room, and there he was, Elias, curled beneath the blanket she had wrapped around him, his breathing steady now, his expression finally peaceful. Something inside her softened at the sight. He looked younger like this, as if sleep had stripped away the exhaustion that had carved deep lines into his face. Yet even in rest, there was a heaviness in his features, a shadow that didn't come from sleepless nights but from something deeper. From loss. Maya knelt beside the sofa quietly, careful not to wake him. One hand reached out instinctively, stopping just short of touching the strand of dark hair that had fallen across his forehead. She pulled her hand back. What are you doing? She whispered to herself, shaking her head. He was a stranger, a man with no past he was willing to share, a man who had appeared on a stormy night like a ghost washed ashore. She stood up quickly and moved to the kitchen, trying to ground herself in routine. Coffee, eggs, the scraping sound of a cheap pan warming on the stove. Normal things. Halfway through cracking an egg, she heard him stir, a soft groan escaping his throat. She turned. Elias pushed himself upright slowly, blinking as if the room was too bright, although it barely had enough light to be called morning. Good morning, she said gently. He looked at her, startled for a moment, as if he had forgotten where he was. Then his shoulders relaxed, and something like relief washed over his face. I'm still here, he murmured. You are, Maya replied with a faint smile. Hungry. He hesitated, then nodded, almost shyly. She felt a tug in her chest. Sit. I'll make you breakfast. He sat at the tiny table, the one made for one person but forced to serve to this morning. He watched her quietly, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to, like he still thought all this could vanish if he blinked too long. After a moment, he spoke. I didn't expect to wake up. She turned toward him sharply. What do you mean? His eyes dropped to his hands, fingers tightening around each other. I haven't slept indoors for days. A breath, shaky. I thought, maybe my luck ran out. Maya's throat tightened. She slid the plate of eggs in front of him. Your luck didn't run out, she whispered. Maybe it changed direction. Elias looked at the food, then at her, and something flickered in his gaze. Something that looked like gratitude mixed with disbelief. He ate slowly, almost carefully, as if he didn't trust the moment to be real. After a few minutes of silence, he finally spoke again. I should tell you something. Maya's heart skipped. Here it is, the truth, or part of it. She sat across from him, bracing herself. Elias swallowed, his eyes locked onto the table. I wasn't always like this. Maya leaned forward. You don't have to explain everything, not if you're not ready. I owe you honesty, he insisted softly. She hesitated, then nodded. He took a breath, slow, heavy, and lifted his gaze to hers. I had a life, a big one, responsibilities, people who depended on me. His voice wavered, and then something happened, something I didn't see coming, and suddenly I was on the outside of it all. She waited, heart thudding, but he didn't continue. His jaw locked, eyes darkening with the weight of memories he wasn't ready to open. Maya reached out, gently touching his hand. You're safe here, she said softly. You can take your time. The moment the warmth of her fingers touched his skin, Elias froze. Then slowly, he exhaled, as if the air had been trapped inside him for days. Maya, he whispered, why are you helping me? You don't even know me. She pulled her hand back shyly. Because once, A long time ago. Someone helped me when I had nothing. And I promised myself I'd do the same if I ever had the chance. Elias stared at her, something shifting in his expression. Something that made her feel warm and uneasy at the same time. What happened to you? He asked quietly. She looked down, a flicker of pain crossing her face. That's a story for another morning, she said with a weak smile. A silence settled between them, comfortable, fragile, until Elias spoke again. Can I stay another night? He asked softly. I'll find somewhere else tomorrow. I'm not ready to be out there again. Maya didn't even hesitate. Yes, stay as long as you need. Elias's eyes widened slightly, as if her kindness was a language he had forgotten how to understand. Thank you, he whispered, truly, before she could respond. A sudden knock echoed through the apartment. Sharp, loud, impatient. Maya flinched. Elias tensed instantly, his whole body stiffening like a hunted animal hearing a twig snap in the forest. Another knock, louder this time. Maya. A familiar voice called from the other side. Maya, open up. It's Mrs. Garcia. I need to talk to you. Maya's heart dropped. Her landlady, at 7 in the morning. She looked at Elias. His face had gone pale, eyes wide, breath quickening. Who is that? He whispered urgently. My landlady, Maya said. Don't worry. She's harmless. But Elias shook his head. No, I can't be seen. The fear in his voice was so sharp it sliced through the room like a blade. Maya stood quickly, grabbed his arm. Come on, hide in the bedroom. He nodded, breath uneven, and followed her quietly, moving like someone who had been hiding for a long time. Just as the knocking grew even harder, Maya closed the bedroom door behind him. She took a deep breath, forcing her heartbeat to slow, and went to open the front door. Mrs. Garcia stood there, hands on her hips, eyes sharp as always. Maya, she said sternly, we need to talk about your rent. Maya felt her stomach twist, and behind the closed door, in her tiny bedroom, a millionaire in her father's clothes held his breath, praying not to be discovered. Maya stood in the doorway, gripping the edge of the frame as if it could hold her steady. Mrs. Garcia tapped her foot impatiently, the hallway fluorescent light flickering above her like a warning. Maya, you've been late before, but never this late, the landlady said, her voice low, stern, not unkind but businesslike. I can't keep giving you extensions. I have a building to run. Maya swallowed hard, forcing her breath to stay even. I know. I'm sorry. Work has been slow and Maya, Mrs. Garcia interrupted, softening slightly. I like you. You're a good tenant. But liking you won't convince the bank to like me. Maya nodded, shame prickling her skin. Behind the closed bedroom door, she could almost feel Elias holding his breath, every second stretching like a thin wire ready to snap. I'll have the money, Maya said finally. I just need a few more days. Mrs. Garcia sighed, crossing her arms. A few? How many is a few? Maya hesitated. 5, she whispered. Mrs. Garcia raised an eyebrow. 5, not 10, not 12. 5, yes, Maya insisted, even though her chest tightened with anxiety. She didn't have the money, not yet, but something in her refused to break down in front of her landlady. All right, Mrs. Garcia said after a long pause. 5 days, but no more. Understood? Yes, thank you. Maya breathed. The landlady turned to leave, but before she could take a step, she stopped, her eyes narrowing. Is someone here with you? She asked suddenly. Maya froze, her pulse slammed against her throat. What? I heard someone moving when I was knocking, Mrs. Garcia said. And you never have visitors at this hour. Oh, that. Maya forced a laugh. It was the TV. I forgot to turn it off. Mrs. Garcia stared at her for a moment, eyes scanning the room behind her. Maya held her breath, finally, with a reluctant sigh. The older woman nodded. All right, but remember, 5 days. I will, Maya whispered. When the door finally closed, Maya exhaled the breath she'd been holding, leaning back against the wood weakly. She waited a moment, making sure the landlady had gone down the stairs. Then she rushed to the bedroom door and opened it quietly. Elias stood pressed against the far wall, breathing unevenly, eyes wide. Fear still etched deep into his expression. She's gone, Maya whispered. Elias slid down the wall, sitting on the floor, trembling. I'm sorry, he said hoarsely. I didn't mean to cause trouble. You didn't, Maya replied, closing the door gently behind her. She just came to talk about rent. It's fine. It's not fine, Elias muttered, rubbing his hands through his hair. You're already struggling, and I'm making it worse. Maya knelt beside him. You're not, she said, Elias. You're safe here. I told you that. He looked up at her, eyes burning with something raw, fragile. You have no idea how dangerous it is for me to be seen right now. He whispered. Something cold slid down her spine. What do you mean? I told you, Elias said softly. I trusted the wrong people, and now there are people looking for me. Maya stiffened. Looking for you? Why? He shook his head. I can't explain, not yet. But if anyone finds out where I am, it won't be good for you. Maya felt a chill prick her skin, but she pushed the fear aside. Elias was scared, exhausted, broken, and she refused to abandon him now. You're not alone, she said gently. Not anymore. Elias closed his eyes, exhaling slowly as if her words were a bomb he wasn't used to receiving. Maya, he whispered, I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to, she murmured. No, he insisted, opening his eyes again. There will come a day when I tell you everything, when you know who I really am, and when that day comes, you'll understand why I say this. He took a shaky breath. I owe you more than you can imagine. Maya's heart fluttered with confusion, concern, and something warmer she didn't dare name. She brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. We'll deal with the future when it comes, she said, trying to lighten her voice. Right now, you need rest, and maybe a shower. You look like you fought the weather and lost. A soft smile tugged at Elias's lips, the first genuine one she'd seen on him. You're right, he said. I did lose. You can shower first, Maya said, standing slowly. Elias hesitated, then nodded. But before he stood, he looked at her once more, something tender flickering in his eyes. There's something about you, Maya, he whispered. Something that makes me feel like I'm not completely lost. The words sent warmth rushing to her face. She cleared her throat quickly. Go show her, she said, flustered. And after that, we'll figure out what comes next. Elias nodded and slipped past her toward the bathroom. Maya stood still for a moment, heart pounding. She pressed a hand to her chest. What are you doing, Maya? She murmured to herself. But deep inside, she already knew the truth. This stranger wasn't a stranger anymore, and the story she had stepped into last night was only beginning to unravel. The sound of rushing water filled the small apartment, muffled by the thin bathroom door, but still present enough to make the walls vibrate softly. Maya leaned against the counter, staring at the dented kettle heating on the stove, trying to calm the whirlwind of thoughts spinning through her chest. She had taken in a stranger, a man who spoke like someone with ghosts behind him, like someone running from shadows she couldn't begin to name. He was gentle, polite, broken in ways that pierced her heart. But the fear in his eyes when Mrs. Garcia knocked, that fear wasn't normal. Maya pressed her fingers to her temples. What did you get yourself into? She whispered. But the answer didn't matter. Not to her. Because deep down, she knew she wouldn't have done anything differently. A soft creak cut through her thoughts. The bathroom door opened slightly, releasing a wave of warm steam. Maya. Elias's voice drifted out. Tentative, gentle. Yes, she answered, turning slightly toward him. He stepped out slowly, a towel around his shoulders, wearing the old sweatshirt again, damp hair dripping onto the fabric. He looked less exhausted, less fragile, but still not whole. The warmth from the shower had softened him, like the heat had melted away a layer of tension he'd been wearing like armor. Do you have a comb? He asked quietly. He tried to push his wet hair back, but it fell into his eyes again. Stubborn, unruly. Maya smiled faintly despite herself. Yeah, somewhere. She rummaged in a drawer and handed him a small black comb. Thank you, he murmured. She watched him as he ran the comb slowly through his hair. He wasn't just handsome. There was something refined about him, elegant even in borrowed clothes that didn't fit right. He had the posture of someone raised with discipline, the quiet confidence of someone used to being listened to, obeyed, even broken. He didn't quite fit the image of a man who belonged on the street. She crossed her arms, leaning back against the table. Elias, she said softly, is there anyone who might be looking for you right now? Someone worried. His hand froze mid-stroke. A shadow passed over his expression. Yes, he whispered, but not for the reasons you think. Maya's heart tightened. Do you want to tell me who? Elias lowered the comb slowly, setting it on the table. He took a breath, steadying himself, then met her eyes with a quiet intensity. I was betrayed, he said finally, by someone I trusted with everything. The words felt heavy, like a confession dragged up from deep inside. Maya stepped closer without thinking. Betrayed how? His jaw clenched, eyes darkening. I can't tell you yet, he whispered. If I do, You'll be in danger too. Maya inhaled sharply. Danger. The word hung between them like a cold draft. But Elias continued, his voice low, strained. All I can say is, someone wanted me gone. And they succeeded. A tremor entered his voice. They took everything from me. Everything. A sudden realization hit her, sharp as lightning. Elias, she whispered, were you involved in something illegal? His head snapped up, eyes widening. No, he said quickly. Never, I swear. I didn't do anything wrong. His breath shuddered, but someone made it look like I did. Her chest tightened, framed. She didn't know how she knew, but the word struck her with eerie certainty. Is that why you can't be seen? She asked softly. Yes, he whispered. If they find me, they'll finish what they started. A chill swept down her back. Maya stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on his arm. His body tensed, then slowly eased beneath her touch. You're safe here, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias's gaze softened, his breathing slowing. He looked at her as if she were the only steady point in a world that had crumbled beneath him. Maya, he murmured, I don't deserve this kindness. She shook her head. Kindness isn't about deserving. A silence stretched between them, warm, fragile, almost intimate. Then suddenly, loud banging erupted from the floor above them. A hammering noise, heavy footsteps, followed by muffled voices. Maya rolled her eyes. That's just my neighbor. He does random repairs at the worst times. But Elias had gone still. Too still. His shoulders stiffened, eyes narrowing, listening intently like a man trained to recognize danger before it reached the door. His voice dropped. Who lives upstairs? A guy named Damien, Maya said. He fixes appliances around the building. He's harmless. Elias didn't look convinced. His gaze stayed fixed on the ceiling, on the footsteps pacing above them. Maya, he whispered, promise me something. Anything, she said without thinking. If anything happens, if someone comes here looking for me, don't protect me, don't lie for me, don't get involved. His eyes locked onto hers, burning with desperate fear. Run. Leave. Don't stay near me. Her heart twisted painfully. No, she said, stepping closer. Don't ask me to do that. I have to, he insisted, his voice cracking. Because if something happens to you because of me, he shook his head, jaw trembling. I wouldn't survive that. The sincerity in his voice hit her like a wave. Raw, trembling, real. Maya swallowed hard. You're not alone anymore, she whispered. Whatever you're running from, you're not facing it alone. Elias stared at her, stunned, vulnerable, as if her words were something he had never heard, not even when he had everything. A soft knock suddenly echoed on the apartment door. Maya and Elias froze at the same time. Another knock. Maya, a man's voice called. It's Damien. Got a minute? Elias's entire posture changed. He stepped back, eyes sharp, alert, every muscle tensed. Don't open it, he whispered urgently. Maya looked toward the door, heart pounding. It's just my neighbor, she whispered back. You don't know that, Elias hissed. Please, don't. The knock came again, firmer this time. Maya, you home? Elias grabbed her wrist, gently but desperately. Maya, trust me, something is wrong. Her breath stopped. And for the first time since she met him, Maya felt a flicker of fear she couldn't explain. The knock came again, louder. The knocking echoed through the cramped apartment, each strike sharper than the last, reverberating through the thin walls like a call Maya could not ignore. Maya. Damien's voice came again, not threatening, not harsh, just loud, casual, ordinary. But Elias wasn't breathing normally anymore. He had gone completely still, his hand tightening around her wrist, his chest rising and falling in quick shallow breaths. Maya, don't open, he whispered urgently, his voice trembling with something she had never heard from him before. Real fear, primal fear. She looked at him, really looked. His pupils were dilated, his shoulders tense, his posture guarded like someone preparing to run or fight. Maya. Damien knocked again. It's about the wiring in the hallway. Just a quick question. Elias shook his head desperately. No, something's wrong. He shouldn't be here right now. Maya frowned. He's just my neighbor. He always knocks early on weekends. But Elias was already stepping back, retreating toward the bedroom, scanning the walls, the door, the windows, like he was measuring escape routes. Please, he whispered. Please don't open the door. Maya touched his arm gently. Elias, if I don't answer, he'll think something is wrong. His jaw clenched. He wasn't convinced, but he let go of her wrist. Slowly, reluctantly. Fine, he murmured, but keep the chain on. Maya nodded, Her heart hammered against her ribs as she walked toward the door. She slid the safety chain across, took a slow breath, and cracked it open just an inch. Through the gap, Damien's face appeared. He was holding a bundle of wires and a damaged extension cord. Expression annoyed but harmless. "Maya." "Hey," he said, turning the extension cord in his hands. "Sorry to bother you so early, but your lights flickered last night too, right? I'm trying to figure out which of these is shot." Maya exhaled slowly, relief softening her shoulders. "Yes, they did flicker," she said. "Probably the one on the left. It burns out every few months." Damien sighed dramatically. "Knew it. This stupid building needs a full rewiring." He grinned a little. "Anyway, thanks. Sorry to wake you. Go back to sleep." Maya nodded. "No worries." She closed the door, slid the lock back in place, then leaned her forehead against the wood, letting out a long, trembling breath. She turned toward the hallway. "Elias, it's okay. It's just," but the hallway was empty. Elias, no answer. She hurried into the bedroom. Elias was sitting on the floor, his back against the wall, hands in his hair, shaking. "Hey." Maya knelt beside him. "It's okay. It was just Damien. See? Nothing happened." But Elias didn't relax. Instead, tears welled in his eyes. Silent, unprovoked. "Maya," he whispered, his voice cracking with helplessness. "I'm losing my mind." She froze. "What?" "No, you're not." "I am," he insisted, voice barely stable. "Every sound makes me jump. Every person feels like a threat. Every shadow looks like them." "Them?" The word chilled her. "Maya," he whispered again, "you don't understand how deep this goes. What they did to me, what they're capable of." Maya placed her hand gently over his. "Then help me understand," she said softly. "You don't have to tell me everything, but let me help." Elias shook his head, tears spilling quietly down his cheeks. "You already helped me more than anyone ever has." His voice trembled, breaking apart. "And that terrifies me." Maya moved closer, instinctively, carefully. She wiped a tear from his cheek with her thumb, and he flinched, then melted under the softness of her touch. Her voice lowered, barely a whisper. "Why does it terrify you?" His eyes lifted to hers, wide, vulnerable, raw. "Because the more I care about your kindness," he breathed, "the more I fear I'll bring destruction into your life." Maya felt a deep ache inside her chest. "You won't," she whispered. "You don't know that." He swallowed hard. "They ruined my life, Maya. And if they find out that someone is helping me, they won't hesitate to ruin yours too." Maya shook her head. "You're not alone anymore, Elias." He stared at her, stunned by her certainty, by her courage, by her willingness to stand beside a man she barely knew. Then he whispered, brokenly, "I don't deserve you." "You don't have to deserve me," she said gently. Silence settled between them, not empty, but full, heavy with something neither dared to name yet. Maya exhaled slowly. "Elias," she said, "tell me something small. Anything you feel safe to share. Something about who you were before all this." He hesitated. His gaze dropped. His fingers tightened around the hem of the sweatshirt. Then, quietly, he answered, "I used to lead people." He murmured, "I used to make decisions every day that changed lives. Large ones, small ones, thousands of people depended on me." Maya's breath caught. "What did you do?" she whispered. Elias closed his eyes, as if saying it hurt. "I was a CEO." Her heart skipped a beat. He opened his eyes again, tears still clinging to the edges. "I ran a company worth hundreds of millions." A bitter breath escaped him. "And now, I'm a fugitive from my own life." Maya stared at him, stunned, breathless, shaken. A CEO, a millionaire, a man powerful enough that his fall would be catastrophic. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "What happened to you, Elias?" He looked down. "My partner," he murmured, "the man I trusted most." His voice broke. "He framed me." Before Maya could respond, sirens suddenly wailed in the distance, growing louder, moving closer down the street. Elias's entire body jolted. "No," he whispered, panic flooding his eyes. "They found me." Maya stood quickly, heart pounding. Sirens drew nearer, the sound vibrating through the thin walls. "Maya," Elias whispered, voice shaking, "if they're coming for me, you need to let me go, now." She grabbed his shoulders. "No, I'm not letting you walk out into danger." His eyes burned with desperation. "You don't understand," he begged. "If I stay, they'll tear your life apart looking for me." The sirens screamed closer, flashing lights now visible through the slit of the blinds. Maya's pulse raced. "We need to hide you," she said quickly. There's a back exit behind the laundry room, but Elias shook his head violently. No. If I run now, they'll know someone helped me. They'll know it was you. They won't find you, she insisted. You don't know that. Suddenly, the siren stopped, right outside the building. Elias went pale, his breath shuddering. Maya, he whispered, defeated, terrified. I think this is the end. She grabbed his face gently in her hands, pulling his gaze to hers. No, she said fiercely. As long as I'm here, you're not breaking. And this is not the end. The hallway outside filled with heavy footsteps, multiple, heading toward her door. Elias trembled, eyes wide, fixed on the entrance like it was the mouth of a lion's den. Maya, he whispered, what do we do? And then, a fist pounded on her door. 3 sharp knocks, strong, authoritative. Maya Torres, a new voice called. This is the police. We need to speak with you. Silence slammed into the room after the knock, a silence so heavy, so suffocating. It felt like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Maya's heart lurched into her throat. Police, here, at her door. Elias staggered back, eyes blown wide with panic, face turning ashen, breath trembling in shallow gasps. Maya, he whispered, barely audible. They found me. They actually found me. Another knock, firmer this time, echoing like the countdown of something irreversible. Miss Torres? The officer's voice came again. We need to ask you a few questions. Maya's palms began to sweat, her chest tight. She turned toward Elias, who looked ready to collapse. It's okay, she whispered, forcing calm she didn't feel. They're not here for you. You don't know that, he hissed, gripping the edge of the dresser for support. Maya, please. If they come in, I'm done. Please, don't let them in. She grabbed his arm gently but firmly. Listen to me. Breathe. Just breathe. But Elias shook his head, panic spiraling, body trembling like a man hearing the footsteps of his executioner. Maya, they're going to drag me back. They're going to finish what they started. You don't understand what they'll do to me. She pressed a hand over his mouth, forcing his eyes to meet hers. Look at me, she whispered. I'm not letting them hurt you. His breath hitched against her palm. His eyes softened just a little, enough for her to feel him grounding to her voice. Her presence. Another knock cut through the moment. Miss Torres, please open the door. Maya lowered her hand, and Elias leaned in, his forehead almost touching hers. You don't owe me this, he whispered, tears thickening his voice. You could pretend you're not home. They'll leave. Just don't open that door. But Maya stepped back, shaking her head. If I pretend I'm not home, they'll come back with building management, she whispered. And that's worse. They'll come inside. They'll search. Elias froze, realizing the truth. So what do we do? He whispered, utterly helpless. Maya scanned the apartment quickly, mind racing. Her eyes landed on the narrow pantry door, the one hardly anyone knew was there, tucked behind the fridge. Come on, she whispered urgently, grabbing his hand. He followed her in a daze, confusion mixing with terror. She shoved open the narrow pantry door, revealing a tiny space stacked with canned goods and old boxes, barely big enough for one person. Get inside, she said, voice trembling. Elias stared, shocked. Maya, I can't just hide. Yes, you can, she insisted. It's the only place they won't check. It blends into the wall. Elias ran a shaking hand through his hair. I don't want to hide from them in your house. What if they search? They won't, Maya said, her voice hardening. This is a conversation, not a warrant. They can't come inside without permission. Elias swallowed hard, torn, terrified. Maya, he whispered, if they take me, I just want to say no. She cut him off sharply. You're not saying goodbye. You're not going anywhere. Her voice cracked. I'm not losing you. For a moment, the fear in his eyes melted, replaced by something soft, fragile, painfully grateful. He leaned forward slightly, as if he wanted to touch her, as if the instinct was uncontrollable. But then he pulled back, jaw trembling. Okay, he breathed. I'll trust you. Quickly, quietly, he stepped into the pantry, curling into the cramped space, knees pulled to his chest, body trembling. Maya closed the door gently, leaving only the faint sliver of air at the bottom. Another knock came, louder and more insistent. Maya Torres, this is the police. Please open the door. She took a deep breath, forced her face into calm neutrality. Then she walked to the door, unlocked it, and opened it just enough to see the 2 officers standing in the dim hallway. One tall, square jaw, tired eyes, the other shorter, holding a small notepad. Good morning, Maya said, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. What's going on? The taller officer nodded politely. Sorry for the early hour, Miss Torres. We're following up on a missing person report. Someone who may have passed through this area. Maya's stomach dropped. Her heart slammed against her ribs, but she kept her expression still. Calm, confused. A missing person, she repeated. Who? The officer pulled a picture from his folder, holding it out, and Maya felt the blood drain from her face. It was Elias, but not the Elias she knew now, not the broken version in her pantry. This was Elias in a suit, sharp, commanding, handsome, confident, executive photo quality, the kind used in magazines and business articles. Elias Ward. She saw the name typed below the picture. The officer watched her reaction carefully. You recognize him? He asked. Maya breathed once, slowly, then shook her head. No, I've never seen him before. The taller officer narrowed his eyes slightly. Are you sure? He was last seen not far from here. Maya forced a faint frown. Officer, I barely leave my apartment except for work. I'm sure I haven't seen this man. The officers exchanged a look. The shorter one scribbled something in his notepad. Neighbors reported unusual noise last night, he said casually. Said it came from this unit. Maya's pulse jumped. Oh, that. She let out a small, awkward laugh. That was just my kettle falling off the counter. Startled me too. They studied her. For a moment, Maya was sure they saw straight through her. Then the taller officer nodded. All right, sorry to disturb you. Relief flooded her chest, but as they started to turn, the shorter officer paused. One last thing, he said. If you do happen to see him, do not approach. Do not let him in. Maya forced herself not to react. Why? She asked softly. The officer slid the photo back into his folder and met her gaze. Because Elias Ward is extremely dangerous. The word slammed into Maya like ice water. Her heart stopped. Dangerous. Dangerous. The pantry behind her seemed to pulse with silence. Suddenly heavier, darker. The officer continued. Corporate fraud, embezzlement, internal sabotage, and likely involvement in violent activity. His partner pressed charges. The case is serious. Maya stared at him, stunned, cold, speechless. He's unpredictable, the officer finished. And he's desperate. If you see him, call us immediately. He nodded politely again. We'll be in the area. Stay safe. They walked away. Maya closed the door slowly, carefully. Her hands shook so badly she had to press them against her chest to steady herself. She leaned her back against the door, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor. Dangerous. Violent. Fraud. Her breath trembled, her head spinning. Was he lying? Was he really framed? Or was he something far more dangerous than she realized? After a long, shaking moment, she pushed herself to her feet and walked toward the pantry. Her hand hovered over the doorknob. Maya, Elias whispered from inside, voice trembling. Are they gone? She closed her eyes. Her breath broke, and she whispered, yes. She opened the door slowly. Elias blinked against the dim light, face pale, knees curled to his chest, looking like a man who'd been caged. He looked up at her, fear and hope tangled in his eyes. What did they say? He whispered. Maya swallowed, and her voice came out, barely audible. They think you're dangerous. Elias stared at her. Then something shattered behind his eyes. Not anger, not fear, but deep, devastating heartbreak. Maya, he breathed. You don't believe them, do you? For a long moment, neither of them moved. The small pantry felt charged, heavy, as if the air itself had thickened between them. Elias was still half crouched inside, knees bent, shoulders curled, but his eyes were wide open, filled with a fear that was no longer just fear of being caught. It was fear of losing her. Maya, he whispered again, voice trembling like a wire stretched to thin. You don't believe them, do you? Maya felt her throat tighten painfully, because she didn't know. She genuinely didn't know. Not anymore. The police officers' voices still echoed in her mind. Fraud, violence, unpredictable, dangerous. And yet, the man in front of her, sitting small and frightened in her pantry, hardly resembled a violent criminal. But fear twists people. Desperation twists them even more. Maya started, then stopped, swallowing hard. Her voice cracked softly. Elias. I don't know what to believe right now. Something inside him broke at her words. She saw it, clearly, painfully, visibly. His face crumpled, his breath shattered, his hands dropped to his sides as if strength had left him completely. Maya, please, Just let me explain. Heath whispered. I swear to you, I didn't do what they're saying. Maya exhaled shakily, backing up a step. Then tell me, she said, her own voice trembling. Tell me the truth. All of it. Not pieces. Not hints. The truth. Ilias's throat bobbed as he swallowed. He slowly pushed himself out of the pantry, almost falling as he stood, his legs stiff from crouching. He steadied himself against the wall, chest rising and falling quickly. And he nodded. You deserve the truth, he whispered, and I promised I'd give it to you someday. He looked at her, eyes raw, haunted. Someday came sooner than I hoped. Maya's heart hammered painfully. Then talk, she whispered. Elias ran both hands over his face, dragging in a trembling breath. He moved to sit on the floor, leaning against the wall, exhausted, broken down. Maya slowly sat on the floor too, across from him, knees pulled up, arms wrapped around her legs, keeping distance, emotional armor she wasn't used to wearing. Elias lifted his head, meeting her gaze. I wasn't just an employee at Helix Dynamics, he began softly. I was the chief executive officer. Maya stiffened, breath hitching. You're a CEO, she whispered. He nodded weakly. A millionaire CEO. Just like the article said. The podcasts, the magazines, he murmured, voice hollow. And all of them painted me as some prodigy with a spotless record. A visionary. A man who built everything from the ground up. He let out a broken breath. But that's not the whole story. Maya tilted her head slightly, watching him, searching him. Go on, she whispered. My business partner, Elias continued, jaw tightening. Daniel Cross. He and I built the company together. We were close, like brothers. We trusted each other completely. His breath grew unsteady, but somewhere along the way, things changed. Money changes people. Power changes people. And Daniel, he wanted both. Maya watched him intently, her heart beat loud in her ears. Elias lowered his gaze, staring at his hands. He started making deals behind my back. He muttered, unethical deals, dangerous deals, laundering money through shell clients, bringing in investors connected with organized groups. His hands shook when I confronted him. He told me to keep quiet, to play along, because this was how real empires are built. Maya's stomach twisted. And you refused, she whispered. Elias gave a single broken laugh. Of course I refused, he said. I told him I would expose everything. And that's when he framed you, Maya murmured, connecting the dots. Elias nodded slowly, agony tightening his face. He doctored documents, forged my digital signatures, rerouted transactions to make it look like I was behind everything. He dragged a shaking hand through his hair. He even convinced my girlfriend. He stopped abruptly, jaw clenching, eyes darkening. Maya swallowed, her heart sinking a little. You had a girlfriend? She asked quietly. Elias let out a bitter exhale. Had, he murmured. We lived together for 3 years. He met Maya's eyes briefly. She believed him. She thought I had turned greedy. Ruthless, she testified against me. Backed every lie Daniel fed her. Maya felt a faint sting in her chest she didn't expect. A mix of pity for him and something uglier. Jealousy's shadow. And the charges, she whispered. All pinned on me, Elias said hollowly. Daniel made sure of it. Even hired people to follow me, intimidate me, corner me. I barely escaped them last night. He swallowed hard. If they catch me, Daniel will finish the job. Because if I talk, his whole empire collapses. Silence swept between them, thick, overwhelming. The kind of silence heavy with the weight of truth, and the possibility of deception. Maya searched his face for lies, for cracks, inconsistencies, manipulations, but all she saw was a man trying not to fall apart. You could have gone to the police, she whispered after a long moment. He let out a broken laugh. They're in Daniel's pocket, he murmured. Half the threats I received came from men with badges. His eyes softened painfully as he looked at her. Maya, I ran because I had no one left, no one I could trust. And then I found your building, your street, your doorway. His voice cracked. And for one insane moment, I thought maybe someone would help me. Maya inhaled sharply. Her breath trembled. Elias, she whispered. Her voice was soft, not fully forgiving, not fully trusting, but not rejecting either. He leaned forward slightly, eyes pleading, vulnerable, desperate. I didn't lie to hurt you, he whispered. I hid who I was because I didn't want you to look at me and see the man the world thinks I am. His voice broke. I wanted you to see me. Maya felt something warm and painful spread through her chest. I did see you, she whispered, and I still do. But Elias, this is so much bigger than I expected. I'm scared. His whole expression softened with heartbreak. I know, he murmured. And I'm sorry. So sorry. You don't deserve this. Maya looked at him. Really looked. The bruises under his eyes. The exhaustion. The fear. The vulnerability. The raw sincerity. Slowly, she crawled closer. Not touching him, but closing the space by half. I don't know what to do, she whispered, but I'm not handing you over. Elias's eyes widened, shimmering. Maya, he breathed. You don't understand what those words mean to me. She shook her head softly. No, but I know what they mean to me. He stared at her, breath trembling, and for a moment, he looked like he might cry. Maya, he whispered again, voice faint. You're the only person who believes in me, the only one who stayed. I don't know how to repay you. You don't owe me anything, she murmured, but Elias shook his head urgently. Maya, I owe you my life. She felt something inside her twist, tighten, warm, because she realized, maybe she wasn't just helping him out of kindness. Maybe she needed him too, in ways she hadn't admitted yet. A sudden knock shattered the moment, this time coming from the neighbor's door. Not theirs, still. Both of them tensed, shoulders flinching, breath catching. Elias looked at her helplessly, eyes wide. I can't stay here, he whispered. Your home isn't safe anymore. Maya swallowed, breath shaking. I know, she whispered. So the question is, where do we go? Elias looked at her, something flickering in his gaze. Maya, he said quietly, there's one place I can go. But if I do, you're coming with me. She stiffened, surprised. Where? She whispered. He took a breath, voice dropping low. A cabin, hidden, off the grid, a place no one knows about except me. He held her gaze. It's the only safe place I have left. Maya felt her nerves tighten. Elias, if I go with you, there's no turning back. He nodded slowly. I know. Silence wrapped around them, heavy, intimate, terrifying, full of choices that would change everything. Finally, Maya whispered, then we leave tonight. Elias exhaled, a shaky, relieved, disbelieving sound. His eyes softened into something warm, aching, dangerous in its own way. Maya, he murmured, voice breaking again. You have no idea what you just did for me. But Maya felt it, deep in her chest. She didn't just save him. She tied her fate to his, for better or worse. The forest pressed around them like a living wall. Tall pines swaying softly in the night wind. Every sound of a branch snapping, every rustle in the underbrush, made Maya's heart leap. She had never been this far from the city, this far from the safety of her small apartment. And yet, something about being here, with Elias, made the fear pulse alongside a strange thrill, a dangerous excitement. Elias moved ahead of her, silently, as if the shadows themselves obeyed him. His movements were precise, deliberate, a predator in a world where the stakes were life and death. Maya followed, careful, clutching her bag, each step careful, deliberate, echoing softly on the gravel path. You've been here before, she whispered, almost afraid to break the stillness. Elias glanced at her, eyes reflecting moonlight, shadowed, guarded. Once, he said softly, voice low, almost reverent. Years ago, before everything went wrong, I had a place where I could disappear, just like this. No one to find me, no one to hurt me. Maya nodded, trying to understand, trying to imagine the weight he carried, the isolation, the betrayal, the fear. I can't imagine, she whispered, voice trembling. He shook his head slowly, jaw tight. No one can, not until they've had everything taken from them. Everything, including the people who mattered most. They reached the cabin. The worn wooden door creaked as Elias opened it. The interior dim, dust motes suspended in the soft moonlight filtering through old, cracked windows. It smelled faintly of pine, smoke, and old wood. He moved quickly, securing the windows, checking the locks, each gesture precise, careful, as if instinctively aware of danger lurking even in this isolated sanctuary. Maya watched him, from across the room. There was something magnetic about the way he carried himself. Even broken, even hunted, he radiated authority, power, control. And yet, the exhaustion in his posture, the tension in his shoulders, betrayed vulnerability, raw, human vulnerability. Sit, he said finally, voice soft but commanding. Maya obeyed, perching on the edge of a dusty chair, bag at her feet. He sank into a nearby armchair, elbows resting on knees, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the floor as if contemplating every danger that had chased him here. Tell me everything, Maya whispered. I need to know. Everything you're not saying. Elias lifted his gaze slowly, eyes meeting hers. Intense, searching, desperate. You want the truth, he said, voice trembling. You want to know why I'm being hunted, why Daniel betrayed me, why the police believe I'm dangerous. Maya nodded, her hands gripping her knees. Yes, she whispered, because I need to understand who I'm helping, and why it matters so much. He exhaled, long, heavy, and began. I trusted Daniel Cross with everything. He murmured, money, decisions, the company, my life, my name. Maya flinched slightly, imagining what that kind of betrayal could feel like. But he wanted more. Elias continued, voice dropping, power, influence, control. And when he realized I wouldn't give in, he decided to destroy me. Completely. He paused, eyes clouded with memory, pain, anger, shame. They manipulated people I loved, co-workers, friends, even my girlfriend. They made them doubt me, fear me, hate me. He shook his head, jaw tight. They turned my life into a trap, and when I tried to escape, they made it look like I was guilty, like I was the criminal, the monster. Maya's chest tightened, her fingers clenched around the fabric of her bag. I can't imagine, she whispered. Why didn't anyone help you? Because, Elias's voice was low, haunted. Because the people I thought I could trust were the very ones who helped him to ruin me. He lifted his hands, trembling. My life, my identity, everything I built, gone, overnight, because someone I loved wanted my downfall. Maya's throat ached, heartbreaking, for him, for the helplessness he had endured, for the pain he carried alone. I can't fix it, she whispered, but I can stand with you, if you let me. Elias looked at her, eyes wide, shimmering, almost disbelieving. You would do that, he whispered, even knowing everything about me, everything I've lost, everything they say I am. Yes, Maya said softly, because I've seen you, and I know, even if the world doesn't, that's not who you are. He exhaled slowly, a tremor in his shoulders, a soft smile flickering briefly across his face. Then, he whispered, voice raw, then I guess, we leave everything behind, and start again, in this place, where no one can find us, no one can hurt us. Maya nodded, feeling a strange warmth amidst the cold tension. Yes, she said. Together, they sat there, silence stretching between them, filled with unspoken fears, unspoken hopes, and the fragile bond forming in the shadow of danger. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain, damp earth, and pine, and as the night deepened, both of them felt it, the fragile, terrifying exhilaration of survival, and the first tentative threads of trust, of connection, of something more than fear. But neither of them knew that danger had already started tracking them, that even in this remote forest, someone was watching, waiting, calculating, and that the choices they had made, the trust they had dared to give, would soon be tested in ways neither could yet imagine. Elias leaned back, eyes closing for a moment. Maya watched him, heart full, mind racing, and in that quiet, tense, isolated moment, she realized the night was far from over, and their journey had only just begun. The first light of dawn barely touched the forest, mist clinging to the ground, wrapping the trees in a soft, gray veil. Maya stirred, sitting up slowly, feeling the chill seep into her bones. Elias was already awake, standing near the small window, eyes scanning the tree line, tense, alert, every muscle coiled as if ready to spring. She watched him, fascinated and afraid. How could someone be so alive, so present, even after everything he had been through? You didn't sleep, she whispered, voice hoarse. He didn't turn, eyes fixed on the forest. I can't, not while we're not safe, he said quietly. Every sound, every movement, could be them, tracking us, waiting for a mistake. Maya shivered, hugging her knees. I know, but we can't stay here forever. Elias finally turned, his gaze softening when it fell on her. I know, he whispered, but this forest, this cabin, it's the only thing keeping us alive right now. They moved silently, preparing a small breakfast, using what little supplies Elias had hidden. The air was tense, heavy with fear and anticipation. Neither spoke of the world outside, of the police, of Daniel. The unspoken weight of it hung over them, thick, suffocating, unavoidable. Hours passed, sunlight slowly piercing the mist, and then, a sound, faint, deliberate, a snapping of a branch outside. Elias froze, every instinct screaming. Maya's heart raced, She barely breathed. He grabbed a small hunting knife from the table, eyes narrowing, scanning, listening. Stay inside, he whispered, voice low, almost a growl. Maya nodded silently, moving back, heart pounding, eyes fixed on him. The snapping continued, closer now, deliberate, careful, calculated. Elias crouched, knife ready, muscles coiled, every movement precise, controlled. Maya's stomach twisted, fear gnawing, terror pressing into her chest. She had never felt so exposed, so fragile, so dependent on someone else's courage. And then, a voice, low, mocking, carried through the mist. Well, looks like the little millionaire has found a friend. Elias stiffened, eyes flashing, recognizing the tone immediately. Daniel Cross. He had found them, heart hammering. Elias took a deep breath. Hide, he whispered urgently. Maya scrambled, slipping behind a table, holding her breath, eyes wide. Daniel stepped into the clearing outside, confident, smug, the predator in his element. He scanned the cabin, eyes narrowing, a faint smirk curling his lips. I knew you'd run here, he called, voice sharp, cutting through the mist. Thought you could hide from me. Little ward, thought you could escape. Elias's jaw tightened, eyes darkening. He gripped the knife tighter, muscles tensed. Maya felt her heart nearly stop, fear twisting her stomach. He's cornered, she thought. There's no way out. Daniel moved closer, deliberately, almost theatrically. Funny thing about power, Ward, he said, smirk widening. You can't hide, you can't escape, and those who help you, they pay the price too. Elias didn't respond, breathing slow, controlled, but Maya could see the tension, the tightness in his shoulders. She wanted to stand, to intervene, to do something, but she didn't. She knew. She had to trust him. Then, Elias shifted, knife in hand, calm, controlled, his eyes locked on Daniel's, sharp, piercing, filled with quiet fire. You won't touch her, he said softly, voice low, dangerous. Daniel laughed, dismissive, but Elias's gaze didn't waver. You don't understand. I've survived worse than you, Elias continued, and I won't let you ruin her life. Not after everything. Daniel hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Elias took advantage, moving like a shadow, sudden, precise. Maya barely had time to gasp, heart pounding, watching him. The tension crackled like electricity, danger so close it burned. After what felt like an eternity, Daniel stopped, smirk fading, eyes calculating. You've changed, Ward, he said slowly. Clever, dangerous. Not the man I left behind. He stepped back, disappearing into the mist. You're not safe? Not yet, he called, voice fading. But this isn't over. Elias exhaled slowly, tension draining, but his body still rigid. Maya rushed to him, gripping his arm, voice shaking. Are you okay? He looked at her, eyes softening, vulnerable, almost fragile. I'm fine, he whispered, though his hands still trembled slightly. You're safe, for now. Maya's heart still pounded, but relief mingled with awe. Admiration. This is insane, she whispered. It's not just about hiding, it's survival. Elias nodded, voice low, filled with quiet resolve. Exactly, survival, and I won't fail. Not again, not with you. They sat together, the cabin quiet now, sun piercing through the mist, both exhausted, but bonded, stronger, more determined. Their trust, their connection, solidifying under fire. And as they stared out into the forest, they knew the world outside would never be safe, but together, they could face anything. The forest lay quiet, mist curling around the trees, sunlight slowly spreading through the branches. Maya sat on the cabin floor, leaning against the wall, bag discarded at her feet, heart still racing. Elias moved silently around the room, checking locks, peering through the windows, every muscle alert, every sense sharpened. She watched him, the man she had chosen to trust, to follow, the man whose life had been shattered, rebuilt, and now balanced on the edge of danger. He turned toward her finally, eyes soft, haunted, but resolute. Maya, he whispered, voice low. I never expected anyone to stay. After seeing who I really am, what I've lost, what I've become, you're not what they say, she whispered, voice trembling. I see you, not the lies, not the accusations, the real you. He stepped closer, slowly, cautiously. Then you understand why I've been running, why I can't let them find me, why I have to stay hidden, forever if necessary. Maya nodded, swallowing. I understand, she said softly, but I also know, you can't hide forever, and neither can I. If I stay with you. Elias exhaled, a shuddering, exhausted breath. I know, he murmured, and yet, I can't lose you. Not now. The wind picked up outside, rustling the trees, carrying the faintest echo of danger, of Daniel, of the world that had hunted him. But inside the cabin, a fragile bubble of safety existed, temporary, fleeting, precious. Maya, he whispered again, promise me, whatever happens, you'll stay strong, you'll survive. Even if I can't protect you. She reached for his hand, trembling. I promise, she said. And you won't have to do it alone anymore. For a long moment, they simply sat together, the weight of the past, the danger of the present, and the uncertainty of the future pressing against them. And yet, in that quiet, tense, fragile moment, they found something unexpected. Hope, connection, trust. Elias let a faint, weary smile touch his lips. Maybe, one day, this will be behind us, and we can live. Without fear, without running. Maya nodded, tears clinging to her lashes. Yes, she whispered, but until then, we survive. Together, hours passed, sunlight growing stronger, forest alive with birdsong and wind. They shared a small meal, spoke softly, laughed quietly at things that reminded them of life outside danger. Every word, every glance, every touch, slowly knitting them together, stronger than fear, stronger than uncertainty. And then, the first real choice came. Elias looked at her, eyes steady, voice calm, controlled. We leave this cabin today, back to the city, but we do it on my terms, carefully, methodically. No one can know. Maya nodded, fear mingling with courage. I trust you, she whispered, and for the first time, she felt the weight of choice, the power of standing with someone, through danger, through fear, through uncertainty. They left the forest cautiously, moving silently, avoiding roads, using back paths Elias knew, shadows as allies, silence as armor. Hours stretched into tension-filled travel, but neither faltered, neither spoke, only the occasional glance, the occasional reassuring touch, bridging fear and determination. Finally, they arrived at a safe house, neutral, unknown, isolated. Elias exhaled, relief and exhaustion colliding in his chest. Maya looked at him, seeing the man beneath the CEO mask, the fugitive, the broken, the survivor. She realized then that survival wasn't just about escaping. It was about choosing who to trust, who to fight for, who to be with. He turned to her, voice soft, eyes deep, raw. Thank you for staying, for believing, for trusting me. She smiled faintly, exhausted, but determined. I didn't just stay for you, she whispered. I stayed because I believe in us, in what we can be, even in the chaos. Elias stepped closer, taking her hands in his. For the first time, they allowed themselves a moment of peace, a fragile, fleeting moment, knowing danger still lurked, but believing in each other enough to face it. Together, outside, the world continued, oblivious to the lives changed in a small cabin in the forest. But inside, two people who had faced betrayal, fear, and uncertainty, had found trust, connection, love, and in that, they found the courage to move forward. Together, Elias whispered, voice low, intimate, no matter what comes next, I'll protect you, I'll fight, I'll survive, because I have to, because you matter. Maya's heart swelled, tears sliding down silently. And I'll stand with you, through it all, she whispered, and we'll face it. Together, the sun rose fully, spilling light into the cabin, illuminating the first true smile Elias had shown in months. And in that light, they found something neither had expected, hope, and the beginning of a life rebuilt, not perfect, not free from danger, but theirs. Together, and in the quiet strength of that bond, they discovered the moral truth of survival, that love, trust, and courage, even in the darkest moments, could give someone a second chance, a chance to rebuild, to forgive, to live. And so, they faced the world, side by side, hearts bound, souls intertwined, ready for whatever came next.